So, what's really the difference between the world's top performers and, well, everyone else? You might think it's talent, or maybe luck, or even just having more resources. But when you really study the greats, a pattern emerges, and it's undeniable. It's not about what they have, it's all about how they think. And that's what we're going to do in this explainer. We're going to build a clear, actionable blueprint of that high achiever mindset.
And this quote, it just gets right to the core of it, doesn't it? Success isn't some external event that just happens to you. Nope, it's an internal game you play every single day. The world you experience out there is just a direct reflection of the world you build inside your own mind. It all starts with your beliefs, that inner dialogue, and your own resolve. All right, so here's our roadmap for building that mindset. First, we're going to talk about the power of vision. Then, we'll learn how to rewire our inner dialogue. After that, we'll get into building unbreakable habits, redefining our relationship with failure, and finally, breaking free from the fear of what other people think. Let's dive in. Okay, first up, vision. You have to think of this as the launch pad for literally everything else. Without a clear destination, you're just drifting. And high achievers, they don't drift. They navigate with absolute purpose because they know exactly where they're headed. Just take Arnold Schwarzenegger's story. I mean, growing up in post-war Austria, his parents, they just wanted a normal, safe life for him. But that wasn't his vision. At just 11 years old, he saw a documentary about America, the giant skyscrapers, the freeways, and he just knew, instantly, that was his destination. He felt like he was born for something big. And this is where that vague dream became a concrete plan. Seeing a bodybuilding magazine with this guy, Reg Park, on the cover gave Arnold more than just a goal. It gave him a blueprint. He saw the exact path to follow: become a champion, get into movies, and achieve fame. That is the power of a clear vision. And here's that power in action. People would see him training for hours and wonder, how does he do it with a smile on his face? Well, for Arnold, it wasn't a chore. Every single rep, every set, it was a joyful step closer to that Mr. Universe title he could already see so clearly in his mind.
But look, a vision isn't quite enough. What happens when your own mind starts whispering, telling you it's impossible? Well, that brings us to our second pillar, mastering your internal conversation. The words you use literally create the house you live in.
Robert Kiyosaki puts this perfectly with a lesson from his rich dad. His poor dad would always just say, "I can't afford it." And that statement, it just shuts down all possibility. It's a dead end. But his rich dad, he forbade that phrase. Instead, he taught him to ask, how can I afford it? It's such a simple shift, but it changes everything. It opens your mind and forces you to find solutions.
The point is this: your words become flesh. If you're constantly saying, "I can't," you're building a reality full of limitations. But the moment you start asking, "How can I?" you start building a reality of possibilities. The dialogue in your head is the architect of your life, so you gotta choose your words carefully.
All right, on to our third pillar. A powerful vision and a positive inner dialogue, that's fantastic, but they're pretty much useless without action. Motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes. High achievers don't rely on it. They rely on unbreakable, non-negotiable habits.
When you study the top performers, these 4 habits, they just show up again and again. They are absolutely obsessed with getting better. They don't just read, they read with purpose to master their craft. They guard their time ferociously, and they build routines that make excellence automatic. And this idea of time, it's so critical. I mean, think about the last 30 minutes you spent just scrolling through social media. Can you even remember what you saw? Probably not. That's a poverty mindset. High achievers understand that time is their most valuable asset. If they're not working, they're actively studying and getting better, turning those wasted moments into real opportunities for growth.
And now for what might be the biggest barrier for most people: the fear of failure. Achievers get a fundamental truth that most of us miss. You cannot have massive success without massive failure. They are two sides of the very same coin.
So let's try to reframe this completely. What if failure wasn't the end of the road? What if it was just data? Just a test to see what works and what doesn't?
This is the redefinition right here. Failure isn't an outcome. It's simply the process of testing. That's it. It's not some judgment on your worth or your ability. It's just a result from an experiment giving you the information you need to run the next one.
You see, the key isn't to avoid failure. It's to increase the speed of your testing. Be quick to try things, and just as quick to learn from them. So when you get rejected for a loan, don't just walk away defeated. Ask, why did you turn me down? Get the data, fix the numbers, and go back. You've got to increase your failure rate to accelerate your learning.
This brings us to our final and maybe most liberating pillar. So many people have the vision, they have the mindset, the habits, but they're paralyzed by one thing. What will other people say? High achievers have learned how to tune out all that noise.
Think about this for a second. In Detroit, 15,000 auto workers get laid off. This is one perspective on value. Trading your time for a paycheck. A system where you are ultimately replaceable. This is the path most people expect you to follow.
But at the very same time, the CEO of that company gets a $22 million compensation package. How is that even possible? Well, it's not about good or bad. It's about a fundamentally different way of thinking about work, about value, and about what other people think.
And this is the core difference. One mindset is all about trading your single unit of time for money, the path society tells you is safe and normal. The other is about thinking, building systems, and leveraging the time of thousands. It's about breaking free from that traditional path other people expect you to follow, and not being afraid of their judgment. Which brings us right back, full circle, to Arnold's second rule of success. You have to develop a filter. When the world says impossible, you have to hear possible. When they tell you no, you hear yes. Your vision is yours and yours alone. Don't let someone else's small thinking shrink your reality.
So the blueprint is all laid out. The question is no longer what to do, but will you do it? High performance isn't just about thinking, it's about action, especially when it's uncomfortable. So I'm going to leave you with this challenge. What is one action you can take today that truly scares you? Because that's where the real growth begins.